Chevy's full-size pickup for the next year has just been introduced, and as expected, it brings a couple of subtle but quite nice updates such as new color options, upgraded exhaust, and new standard features. The overall layout, on the other hand, remains the same, and that's why we've decided to take a closer look to try to find out some things about this truck you may have been neglecting. Buckle up as we take a closer look at the 2024 Chevy Silverado, at the pros that'll surprise you and the cons that you can't ignore. And as you may presume, we'll start with the good things. Number 5. Impressive range of powerful engine options. When we talk about the Silverado's strong points, the powertrain is definitely one of the first things that come to mind. There are 4 options in total, and all are very capable. The offer starts with a modern 2.7-liter Turbo 4, which is good for about 310 horsepower and an impressive 430 pound-feet of torque, which is way more torque than you get from base versions of rival models. The offer continues with the 5.3-liter V8 that, besides nice sonic features, offers quite decent 355 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque. Still, we think that the real deal starts with a bigger V8, the good old 6.2 unit, which puts out 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. Finally, there's the diesel version, one of the last remaining in the light-duty pickup segment. The smooth 3.0-liter inline-6 has been updated recently and now puts out a respectable 305 horsepower and an even more impressive 495 pound-feet of torque, which makes it capable of towing as much as the large 6.2-liter V8, which would be up to 13,300 pounds. At the same time, this engine ensures impressive efficiency for a full-size pickup. In numbers, that would be 24 mpg in the city and 29 mpg on the highway. As for transmission, it's good to know that all units except the base Turbo 4 come with a 10-speed automatic transmission, while the aforementioned Turbo 4 comes in pair with an 8-speed gearbox. Number 4. Respectable towing capacity. Pickups are made for hard tasks, particularly for towing and hauling, and that's where the Silverado really shines. No matter the engine choice, you may count on impressive ratings, and if we compare it to the competition, it turns out that only the F-150 features a slightly better max towing capacity. The actual capabilities largely depend on the configuration and, of course, the engine choice. Models with a base 2.7-liter Turbo 4 can tow up to 9,500 pounds, which is a solid number for a base version. The 5.3-liter V8 offers a solid upgrade, as the max capacity goes up to 11,200 pounds. Finally, there are the bigger 6.2-liter V8 and the 3-liter inline-6 turbo diesel, which can both tow up to 13,300 pounds, which is, as we mentioned, second only to the F-150 and higher compared to other models in the class, such as the Ram 1500 and Toyota Tundra. The max payload capacity is also respectable, starting with 2,260 pounds for models with the Turbo 4, which is the best choice if hauling is your top criterion. If you pick the 5.3-liter V8, you'll be able to haul up to 2,120 pounds, while the 6.2-liter unit offers a max payload of up to 2,030 pounds. Finally, there's the turbo diesel with the lowest payload capacity of all, which goes up to 1,930 pounds. Number 3. Generous passenger space. Just like the competition, the Silverado also comes in 3 body styles, including regular cab, double cab, and crew cab styles. And while the regular cab model offers a single row of seats, the other 2 come with 4 doors and 2 rows of seats. Moreover, they're both very generous with passenger space and put Chevy's pickup among class leaders in this aspect. Let's take the double cab model as an example first. First of all, there are super generous 44.5 inches of legroom in the front row, along with 43 inches of legroom and 66 inches of shoulder room, which is comparable with any full-size luxury SUV on the market. But what's even more impressive is that even though this is technically an extended cab, you may enjoy over 35 inches of legroom and nearly 40 inches of shoulder room in the second row, which is plenty enough to accommodate adults with ease. But the real comfort comes with the crew cab model and its impressive 43.4 inches of legroom in the second row. Along with that, there are more than 40 inches of headroom, 65 inches of shoulder room, and more than 60 inches of hip room. So it's super easy to conclude that 3 adults can fit in the second row of this cabin with ease, and that's not always the case with rival models. Number 2. Handling and maneuverability. On paper, the Silverado is a pretty conventional pickup with leaf springs on the rear end. However, in reality, this pickup is actually surprisingly engaging in terms of ride quality. Everyone who's ever tried the current generation Silverado instantly noticed how maneuverable this pickup is and how it feels like a smaller vehicle. Indeed, the Silverado is quite easy to maneuver in a tight space, but that's not all. The ride by itself also feels quite engaging. Considering the rigid body-on-frame platform, there isn't much body roll as you would probably expect, while steering also feels fairly precise for a pickup. Still, things are far from perfect, so make sure to stay with us as we'll get to the bad sides of the suspension setup in a few moments. Number 1. Strong off-road capabilities. Although it may not seem like it at first, the Silverado is actually a pretty good off-roader with a couple of dedicated versions on offer. If you're looking for a mix of off-road performance at attractive price, Chevy offers the Trail Boss version available at a couple of trim levels such as Custom and LT. This model brings a long list of off-road upgrades, starting from an upgraded off-road suspension with new shocks and a 2-inch lift. Furthermore, the list of features also includes goodies like standard 4-wheel drive, 2-speed transfer case, all-terrain tires, automatic locking differential, and hill descent control. Still, the real deal starts with the ZR2 trim, which brings way more serious off-road features to the table. Some of the highlights are goodies like 33-inch all-terrain tires, multimatic off-road dampers, upgraded skid plates, locking front and rear differentials, etc. If that doesn't seem hardcore enough for you, the ZR2 is available with a Bison package, which brings, besides unique styling details, also features stamped steel bumpers that have been reshaped to provide better approach and departure angles, and upgraded skid plates for better underbody protection. But the Silverado isn't perfect, so let's check some of the cons that you can't ignore. Number 3. Ride quality. As we've mentioned earlier in this video, this pickup features rather a conventional suspension setup with leaf springs on the rear end, and despite the engaging handling and very good maneuverability, things aren't great when it comes to the overall ride quality. Simply, with such a rigid rear suspension, you can't expect much in terms of comfort. The absorption of road imperfections isn't great, while just like any other vehicle with leaf springs, the rear end can sometimes bounce around with an empty cargo bed. Just a decade ago, this wouldn't be taken as a drawback, because it was typical for pickups to offer such a ride. But times have changed, especially the moment Ram introduced its pickup with multi-link rear suspension. With a recent redesign, the Toyota Tundra also received a multi-link rear suspension, so there are already 2 models in the class that offer ride quality that's way superior compared to Chevy's half-tone model. Number 2. Interior quality. Although we can't say it's bad, it looks like Chevy's cabin started to lag behind the competition in terms of quality. Simply said, rivals look nicer, even though Chevy introduced the new cabin recently. Other than great ergonomics and an excellent infotainment system, there isn't much to like about this cabin because most areas feature mediocre materials and build quality. What's even worse is that base models still feature the previous generation's dashboard design, which can't be considered competitive by today's standards. Most areas are wrapped with plastics and other cheap materials, while there's also an obvious lack of tech features, starting from the fact that you get a small 7-inch touchscreen instead of the modern 13.4-inch unit that comes with higher trim levels. Number 1. No high-performance version. We can't say this is a major drawback, but if you look from the other perspective, having a hardcore high-performance version is definitely a matter of prestige. And despite the pretty impressive powertrain lineup with several capable engines, there isn't something we could compare with the most capable variants of the F-150 and the Ram 1500. The most powerful is the 6.2-liter V8 with 420 horsepower. On the other hand, Ram's most capable version comes with a monstrous 6.2-liter supercharged V8 with 702 horsepower. And also, Ford recently introduced the Raptor R with an engine that's borrowed directly from the Shelby GT500 and puts out around 700 horsepower and 640 pound-feet of torque. And with such a set of circumstances, it's normal that many expect to see something similar from Chevy. Unfortunately, officials are still quiet, and there are no indicators of GM engineers preparing such a monstrous version for the future. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.